Beef is a new 10-episode series on Netflix produced by A24. The dramedy stars Steven Yeun and Ali Wong in a road rage revenge story / social satire. On this podcast, we like to discuss a recent episode of a different series every show. The first episode of Beef is titled from a quote by Werner Herzog, "The birds don't sing, they screech in pain." It's about 40 minutes long. We're about to talk about it. Welcome to today's episode.
So in preparation of this, I didn't learn anything about the show, but because I know it's about beef, I'm going to start you off with some beef trivia. Okay? So we got, you remember in a previous podcast, we talked about one cow producing 2,000 burgers. That's how many quarter pounders you can get from one. So how many baseballs do you think you can get from a beef hide? I've got 4 different options. 44 baseballs, 144 baseballs, 244 baseballs, or 1,044 baseballs.
How many baseballs can I get
from a beef hide? That's their skin.
Beef hide.
Yes.
Okay. And you said 44, 144, 244, and what else?
Or 1,044.
I'm going to go with 144.
Well, then you're correct. Okay, so you're 1 for 1 on this. I've got 2 others. Longest steak ever cooked. Closest to 10 feet, 50 feet, 100 feet, or 200 feet. Extra points if you can tell me where it was cooked.
Oh, God. I would just say 100 feet and then Australia.
Oh, you got 100 feet correctly. It's actually 90, I think, 0.81 feet. So it's closest to 100. And it was in France in 2002, according to Guinness Book of World Records.
France, okay.
Which I didn't even know Guinness was still around. But, that was the one that came up online. And then the last one is how many glasses of milk can one cow produce in a lifetime? 1,000 glasses of milk? 10,000 glasses of milk? 100,000 glasses of milk, or 200,000 glasses of milk?
I'm just going to go with the highest one, 200,000 glasses.
You're 3 for 3. This show must have taught you so much about beef. I'm so impressed. Tell me about how Steven Yeun in this documentary style show where he talks about cows.
Nothing like that.
Nothing like that.
No, Steven Yeun plays a character named Danny, and like you said, it's a road, or like I said earlier, it's a road rage revenge story.
You did say that in the intro. It was very confusing.
It basically follows 2 different characters. You have Danny Steven Yeun and then Amy Ali Wong. Mm-hmm. And you see kind of a incident that starts them off where, one of them just starts following the other one, like chasing
one of
behind
them just
them.
Does not start following the other one, right? You have to imagine in a road rage scenario, you have to side with one of them. So who did the wrong first?
I would say who did the wrong first was probably Danny, Steven Yeun's character.
So Danny's at fault.
Because what happens is there's a quick scene right beforehand. It's how the show starts off. He's at this grocery store. He's trying to return hibachi grills and a carbon monoxide detector. And there's this really judgmental cashier who's like, "I've seen you these past couple days. This is the 3rd time that you're returning these hibachi grills and this carbon monoxide detector."
Interesting.
And then Danny is like, "I thought that you said that this store doesn't have a questions asked policy." And then he's like,
so he's using them and then returning them?
Yeah, well, I guess we don't really know. But then the cashier is like, "I'm not asking a question here. I'm just stating the facts. You keep on returning these." And then Danny gets really embarrassed. He has trouble finding the receipt, and then he just is like, "You know what? I'm just gonna keep these anyways," and then goes to his car.
So he's already in a bad mood when he gets on the road. Never a good scenario.
Well, he's not even on the road yet. In fact, he says a line that's something that's repeated throughout the whole entire episode, where he's like, "Something's always happening," and right after he says that, he can't get his seatbelt on correctly. And
Murphy's Law.
So it's these small little things that are happening. It reminded me actually a little bit of The Bear, where it's just in every single episode, almost in every single scene, there's just something that's going wrong, or there's something bad that's about to happen.
It just reminds me of every A24 produced thing ever. It feels like it's very not human, but not even dramatic, but low key annoying.
Yeah. And my question is, I don't know the last time that I've seen an A24 television series.
Well, it's funny you bring that up. So Comrade Detective was A24, but also 3 of the ones that we've done: Mr. Corman, Moonbase 8, and Irma Vep.
Irma Vep was A24.
That confuses you?
Yeah.
Moonbase 8.
Moonbase 8.
With Travis Kelce and Steve Carell.
I mean,
that is the one that does not fit in with the rest of
Mr. Corman also is very odd.
That's very artsy. No. That's like Joseph Gordon-Levitt's claim to fame. He loves the red whatever thing that he made, the red YouTube.
All 4 of those that you mentioned, maybe aside from Irma Vep, were all comedies, and so is this. So it's strange because A24 obviously does comedies, but they really do horror. That's what they know him for their horror
This has
films.
been referred to as a dramedy, so it's supposed to be a lot of drama in there, but maybe not in this first episode, and also a tragic comedy.
A tragic comedy. Okay,
Yeah.
it hasn't gotten there yet.
Yeah.
Because this is really absurdist, I feel like, in this first episode. Because what happens is Danny, he's pulling out, and you've seen it in the trailer, he almost backs into Amy. Almost, yeah. And then that's when kind of the conflict, it becomes like, who's more in the wrong? Because Amy just lays on the horn.
Oh, I hate it.
And
when
instead
people do that.
instead of just moving it, she just continually lays on it. And then Danny sticks his head out of the car, and it's like, what do you want? And then she drives up to a stop sign, and that probably would have been the end of the confrontation. But right before she goes onto the main road, she flicks him off, and then he's like, oh no, I'm not gonna deal with this. So then there's this chase scene that happens where he gets on the road, and it's actually pretty intense.
This has to be based off like a true story, you'd think, right?
I mean, yeah, because it got so crazy. He's just like chasing out.
No, but who hasn't had that situation where they just get so pissed off at like the smallest thing that a driver does, and then that other driver just adds on top of it by either flicking someone off or like brake test someone or like it's really annoying.
But this is, a lot of people always are like, oh, what if I went after them? No one actually does it. That's the thing that makes Danny different, and he's almost like crashing into several different cars. In fact, he runs a red light, and one of the hibachi girls that I had in the bag falls out. And he's just
like a full grill.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Well, no. Like these are all in a box. He had like 3 of them in a box. Those were the things he was returning.
I was thinking you were talking about like a Weber-sized thing, like a table thing.
I think that it's like built into that from the box. But anyways, what happens is he tries to cut her off when she's turning a corner by going onto the sidewalk, and then he runs over a garden that was on the corner.
It doesn't sound like you should be on Danny's side at this point. If you're saying that he was the root cause of it and she just responded with a flick off.
Right after he's like almost crashing into several different cars. In fact, the only thing that Amy does really that's wrong when they get onto the main road is she does at one point make a left to almost crash into him. But it seems like, like you're saying, Danny's in the wrong until he can't get out of the corner of the sidewalk, and the car sees that and then starts to back up.
Amy sees that.
Yeah, and well, we don't know it's Amy yet. But the white car, you just see back up, and it's about to crash right into him, and he's like, stop. And like right beforehand, they hit the brakes and then just like drive off.
Okay.
So Danny is like kind of left in a little bit of a daze, and Amy is like, oh fuck, because of like almost what she did. And then
But she didn't do it.
Yeah, but right? she basically threatened someone, almost killed them.
But that's where Steven Yeun's character, Danny, just feels like I'm gonna still go after her.
No, by the point that Amy almost drives into him, he's done. He's done. And also his car is stuck anyways in the garden. So it's
over, right? That's the end of the beef.
That's the intro.
Yeah, but we're done with the beef now.
Yeah,
no one's upset.
I mean, for right now, the thing is like I said, Amy and Danny, they don't really talk for the rest of the episode until the very end. It's really or following their life. Like, for example, we see that Amy, she's married to someone named George. She has a kid named Junie. George is like randomly making statues for her store that she owns because she owns like an antique shop or something like that.
Yeah, George Nakai is supposed to be, which I have to wonder if it's like George Nakai, but like he's a stay-at-home dad, right?
Yeah.
So she is the breadwinner in the family.
Yeah, again, she owns a store, and it seems like she's somewhat famous. A lot of people that are walking into her store are a lot of women, but they always come up to her and they're like, "You're such an inspiration with everything that you did." And I wasn't exactly sure why they needed to add that to her character, but really, yeah.
But is Amy's character, is she at all like the Everything Everywhere All at Once, where she's taking on most of the responsibility, and so she feels extra stressed because of that, and so this is going to be an identity story about how she learns more about herself?
I would say so. I think though that
also A24
in Everything All at Once, the main character starts off, and I think that she is a little bit worse in terms of empathy than Amy is, which is funny when you talk about the first 5 minutes of this episode.
It is, because I can't imagine the Everything Everywhere All at Once character doing what she just did with the car.
But for example, like in the midway through, I'd say like 15 minutes in, you meet Fumi, who is George's mom, Amy's mother-in-law, and you see how demanding she really is.
Yes.
She's talking about always wanting to spend time with her granddaughter and how they should like really refurbish the home, and how Amy should move her store location to a place that's more
Very
like,
judgmental.
Incredibly
also,
so.
definitely possibly a cultural thing that they were trying to pull in there.
I would think so, yeah. And George is trying to like kind of ease the tension and everything,
Sure.
but you can tell Amy's really mad because it seems like Fumi is kind of taking Junie into her own hands, putting her in different classes, like for school and everything. It was odd. So that's kind of Amy's storyline. Also, she knows someone named Jordan. She's having a lot of trouble with money, and Jordan is holding.
She's having trouble with money.
Yeah. I mean,
I
like,
thought that she was
her
pretty
store.
successful.
Her store is like kind of having problems.
Again, everything, everywhere, all at once feels like that. Then. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So she goes to an open house with a friend named Jordan. And by the way, this is like interspliced with Danny's storyline, but I'm just deciding to go through one because I feel like it'd be easier.
Okay.
And she meets with Jordan, and Jordan is this person who host these huge things where they have these foods
like
that look
gala
absolutely terrible. Like everyone's sitting down on this like restaurant and they're having these like mushroom pizzas, but the pizzas have these weird type of fluff on them. It's supposed to show that Jordan is incredibly rich, and this is all basically leading to a head where Jordan and Amy talk, and Jordan is like, I'm going to give you a term sheet tomorrow, basically saying that like they're going to partner, and that's something that is really good that happens to Amy, which I guess was nice to see because throughout most of the episode, and you can say this for Danny's storyline as well, only bad things happen to these characters.
Really?
Yes, like
because it's just sounding like she goes to a fancy dinner and having a good swell time.
Yeah,
I know you already talked about how stressful her family life is and how she needs money, but like,
yeah.
Okay,
Well,
so it seems like things are on the up and up now.
Yes,
or uptick.
At that point, and with Danny's storyline, he's living in this kind of rundown apartment. It's not too bad, but he's also living with his brother Paul, who is not spending anything. Like, he doesn't pay rent or anything like that. In fact, he takes a lot of the money that he earns if he's not playing video games and puts them into Bitcoin.
Crypto investing, yeah.
Even though
pumping iron, it says, according to this. So he's doing a lot of workouts.
They didn't go into that this episode. I really only know he does Bitcoin because he goes into like Danny's room or in the living room at one point, and it's like, I just made $2,000 off of Bitcoin. But apparently this is one of the very few times that this has worked for Paul, because he just likes to flush money basically down the drain.
Sure.
That's what I've learned. And so Danny, he's also having trouble with money. At one point he has a conversation with his cousin, who is fresh out of jail, I think like for 3 months. And this wasn't the first time that he's asked for money either. This was an uncomfortable scene, but
fresh out of jail, and he's his cousin.
Yeah,
it's like this fool.
Yeah, well, I would even say that character, the cousin character,
Isaac.
I don't think that was what his name was. I don't think they ever addressed him by name. But yeah, Isaac. I felt like he was kind of not the crazier one in this fool, the crazier sketchy of the pair. But I also felt like I understood where he was coming from, because even though Danny asked for money, he's like, okay, I'll give you $20,000.
He also sounds like an Atlanta character almost.
Yeah, I mean, like, I thought that he was more grounded in reality, because when Danny does ask for money, part of what makes the scene so uncomfortable is that you see the cousin get more and more riled up, but then it made sense because of the amount that he was giving Danny. Yeah. Danny, he decides to put this money into a stock, and it seems like this stock is on an upward trend. Yeah. Like, throughout the whole episode, it seems that it's always in the green.
He didn't get the lead from his brother, though, right? The one who was way into crypto.
Well, it was funny because Danny, like, when you first learn that Paul decided to put the money into crypto, he starts badgering him for it. He's just like, you shouldn't be doing that. You're obviously wasting mom and dad's money. It turns out the mom and dad live in Korea. In fact, you even hear Danny or Steven Yeun use some Korean in this episode when he's speaking to his parents.
Yeah, I don't think he's fluent, but he definitely understands it because he was born in Seoul, Korea. But yeah.
Yeah, and his mom and dad, I think, are having to work for their uncle. Point is, everyone is like kind of cash stricken, it seems like, for this show. And so Danny, yeah, he's also working as a handyman. There's a funny character that he continually works for, where he is like working on a Ring doorbell, and the person who owns the home, that's the character, you continually hear him argue with his wife about, like, when he goes inside wanting to fire Danny because the mom, or like the wife is like, he's annoying, you just have to like go out there and just like have enough balls to actually say you're fired, but the guy can't do it. In fact, Danny even has to go back the next day to help like trim some trees that he has in the front yard.
So as a pro, you would say the show is legitimately funny.
Yeah, the show, and by the way, when we get to the final 10 minutes, which I'm just about to get to, that's when the show, I thought, was at its best, actually, because it turns out, yeah, finally the husband has enough, like, courage to face Danny, because Danny almost falls from the tree and, like, kills himself, and it's just like, you're fired, it's done, everything is like, kind of going bad for Danny, especially when Paul Paul, again, his brother. Danny is loading the truck up, and he's about to get inside the truck, and he's like, Paul, get in. And Paul's like, no, my friend's about to pick me up. He lives really close by. And then Danny's like, okay. And then an Uber pulls up, and it's like, Uber for Paul. And Danny is within earshot. Mm-hmm. So it's a lot of like this kind of, I guess, situational or cringe humor in that sense.
Well, not cringe, because when I think cringe, I think of a show that like sucks.
I mean more it's uncomfortable humor.
Yeah, super uncomfortable.
But the uncomfortable humor, I think, really works for the show. In fact, I think it's a huge benefit. Also, I think that Danny and Amy, played with Stephen Yeun and Ali Wong, play their characters so well that even though they do seem somewhat despicable in like a couple scenes,
you're still siding with them.
They're kind of the protagonists.
I guess when you beat them down enough and you have them going through as much as they went through.
Yeah, speaking of being down, Danny tries to kill himself like right before the end of the episode. He types into Quora and sees if he's trying to do it correctly, but he's like trying to get all the oxygen out of the room by using the hibachi girls and setting them on fire.
So just all the carbon monoxide?
Yeah, but he can't even do that. And so he's like,
so it just doesn't work, or he doesn't feel tired, or what?
No, it's just not working. So it's almost like he can't even kill himself. That's correct. That's how much he's failing.
So how does it get back to the beef?
Yeah, so at the very end of the episode, Danny, one thing I didn't mention was right as the car is driving away after it almost killed him, the white car driven by Amy, he remembers the license plate number. And apparently he goes onto a website, and there's a place that tells you what those people with that license plate live if he pays a certain amount. I think it was like $80.
Wow.
So at the very end of the episode, George and Junie's going off to school. She's going to be driven by George. So Amy is completely alone in this house. Now, this is usually when a show, I feel like if it had this scene in any other show, wouldn't work, but I thought that it kind of actually added to the quirkiness of this whole show. Amy goes into the safe where there's a gun. She starts masturbating with it, and as odd
with the gun?
Yes, as odd as that scene is.
I hope it wasn't loaded.
This is actually, no, I don't think it was. In fact, that's one of the things that she starts, like, pulling the trigger, and it just continues. So, but this is actually when the scene got good, because it was kind of building up. You had Danny, it was really funny. I thought that Stephen Yeun did his best work in this scene, where he's in a car, and he's, like, trying to rile himself up, and he's, like, acting as if when he confronts this person, what he's going to say, and how he's going to beat him up and all this different stuff.
He thinks it's a he.
Yes.
Interesting.
That he thought it was a he this whole entire time.
Okay.
So when he knocks on Amy's door, Amy kind of stops. She lets him in, and he's like, I'm a rooftop person, and I see that there's some problems kind of with your rooftop because there's an electrical hazard that's going on. And he continually is telling her throughout this scene where they're meeting, because Amy has no idea who he is, and he thinks that it's George, Amy's husband, that's been driving the car. He keeps on telling her all these problems she has in her house. Like, they even go out to the garage, and there's this cabinet, and he's like, oh yeah, I can see that there's a lot of moisture that's coming from this cabinet. You're going to have to get, like, this thing is completely warped. You're going to have to get it refixed. And she is getting, like, so mad about this, but she's like, thank you. And then that's when Danny learns, though, that she's the one that's actually been driving the car, because he sees the white car, and he's like, so does your husband drive this a lot? And she's like, oh no, he drives the minivan. I'm usually the one that drives the white car.
Yeah.
This is when the scene, again, gets so odd, but I still enjoyed the ending because it's so juvenile, but Danny decides to go to the restroom. She lets him use it.
And he knows at this point that she was the one who had flicked him off.
Yes. and so right after he uses the restroom, Amy is like, oh, should we exchange information? And he just books it out of there. Like, he basically says a couple words, but he's just like, oh, no, I have to go. I have a different appointment. Bye.
So what did he do to the restroom?
Amy goes in, and she sees that he's pissed all over the restroom.
Okay.
You see it on the rug, the toilet, the floor.
The rug?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, who has a rug in their restroom?
It is all over the place. And the funniest part...
Like the shower mat? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, the shower mat,
Okay, all right.
But it's all over. It's not just there. So then she runs out after him. And the funniest part was Danny wasn't even running to his car. He runs out the house, but he's walking to his car.
Okay.
So when he sees Amy running after her, that's when he runs. And suddenly the 2004 song "The Reason" starts playing in the background.
Yeah.
You know what it is if you heard it. He's running, and it then goes to slow-mo, where they're both running after each other. He gets in his car, he drives off, he flicks her off, and then Amy tries to remember the license plate number. that's where the episode ends.
Yeah.
Now, the thing that, again, I liked so much about the ending in the beginning was not only the fact was it intense and also funny seeing how the characters interacted with each other. It just got so crazy. I mean, like, that was what I thought was funny. I think the problem with the show is that when it was trying to focus on Amy and Danny's life, even though I understood that they were trying to be like, yeah, they go through the same problems, even though Amy has it a little better, I thought that the show kind of got boring, and therefore I would give this show a 7 out of 10, because I think that, like I said, the quirk, the acting, the humor, it's all there, and there's too many shows that I have that I'm like too backed up on where I would actually watch the rest of this thing, but I wouldn't be against seeing like a second episode or something if the timing was right. Like, I think this show really
So you're giving the pilot episode a 7 out of 10.
Yes.
And you're saying it's not terrible, but you're not going to continue to watch it.
Yeah.
Okay. So you want to hear what the ratings are?
Yeah.
All right. It has an 86% on Metacritic.
On Metacritic.
On Metacritic. What does that mean?
It means that's like universal acclaim.
Yeah,
right?
that's like universal acclaim. Based on 26 positive reviews, only other 2023 show that we've done that has a higher score on Metacritic is Rain Dogs. 8 on IMDb, 99% on Rotten Tomatoes, 97% audience score. And when it comes to the critics, like just headlines, this show is considered probably one of the best of the year.
Wow.
USA said Netflix's road rage drama perfectly encapsulates 2023. Variety said Ali Wong and Steven Yeun go toe-to-toe in beef, but they gave it a super positive review. The Telegraph said grab a bite of the best new series of the year. New York Times says it's a thrilling, dark comedy that explores the complexity of anger through a road rage feud between two drivers who are more alike than it seems. Guardian gave it 4 stars. I was surprised, though, by the user and audience reviews, though.
Well, let me weigh in, because I don't know what you're going to say, but I will say I don't think this show is for everyone. That's why I'm a little surprised at how good the reviews have. Maybe I will watch the rest of the show, but that's why I'm so surprised at how good it's been received.
I haven't found really a negative comment besides maybe on IMDb. Every user and audience person is talking about how they just decided to binge the whole thing because of how good it is. Apparently, it turns into a parasite-style social satire, which maybe you didn't see the... and it also has characters that you didn't even mention. I know you saw the trailer before you got into it, and it had Andrew Santino in it.
I think so,
He is in this show. So we'd already talked about him in a show that we did not like.
And yeah, Royal Crackers, I even remember saying that he must be busy because he was in Royal Crackers Dave season 3, and now apparently he's in this show too.
And there's other connections between Dave. I think the creator of the show is also the one who wrote for Dave. He wrote for It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. He's written for Tuca and Birdie, and Tuca and Birdie is where Steven Yeun and Ali Wong have worked together as well. Ali Wong was actually the mom, or not the mom, but the older version of the kid character in Paper Girls too. So we've seen her before in one of these series.
And she was in Big Mouth, I remember.
Exactly, Big Mouth, but mostly she's known for her comedy specials on Netflix as well. Where am I going with this? Oh, originally her character was supposed to be a Stanley Tucci type.
Stanley Tucci type.
But then they were like, this would make it a lot better. So that was like a short-lived idea. But the reason I brought up Andrew Santino is because who's the guy he does the podcast with?
Bobby Lee.
Both of them were going to be in the show together, and they even made a character named Bobby who plays his friend, but like the guy couldn't be in it, so they had to cast someone else who sort of looks like him. Yeah. But like that made people's day too. There's a lot of reasons why I think you should continue to watch the show, but mostly because it just seems like everybody loves it.
99%, 86% on like Metacritic. That's a pretty high score.
There was only one mixed review on Metacritic. There were no negative ones.
Oh wow.
Which means just altogether there are no negative ones.
So then, are you going to watch the rest of the show?
I don't know, but the pissing scene at the very end sounds funny enough. The other thing is that this pilot was actually directed by someone pretty famous named Hikari. She
yeah, I saw that. It said directed by Hikari, but they didn't have a last name. It literally was just
she's done a ton of movies, and I wish I had any at my disposal right now just to say, but she's very well known. But the person that they were originally going to have direct the pilot was the director of Minari. Steven Yeun's other film.
Yeah.
Again, the connections are everywhere for this. But yeah, let's get to a game. This one's also about beef, but this is actual beefs, as in what the show was talking about. One of these is fake. You gotta choose which one it is, right?
Okay.
Cola Wars. Pepsi actually went bankrupt twice. So the Cola Wars 100% did exist. But I'm saying that Pepsi actually went bankrupt twice. Once in 1923, once in 1931. And they offered to sell out to Coca-Cola both times. But each time Coca-Cola denied it. And so they ended up like creating their own competition. And the next one is War of the Bucket in 1325 between rival cities Bologna and Modena in Italy. The myth goes that one infiltrated the city of Bologna without anyone noticing. They weren't looking for trouble, so what they did was they stole a wooden bucket from a well as a trophy. Just a bucket. Bologna demanded the bucket back. Modena refused. War was declared. 2,000 people died.
Over a bucket?
Over a bucket. The next one was the Great Cheese War of 1532. Also in France, about 2 men who took credit for the largest cheese round ever produced, but since there was no like internet back then, what they needed to do was take a full year to unequivocally determine who actually broke the current record. And in an ironic twist, neither of them actually did. And one of them died of food poisoning less than 2 years later.
Okay.
Okay, and then the fourth one is the War of the Stray Dog between Greece and Bulgaria in 1925, where a Greek soldier wandered into Bulgarian territory to retrieve his lost dog. The Bulgarian soldier shot him, leading to a battle that lasted 10 days and lost over 150 lives.
And one of these is false.
One of these is false. One of these did not happen. It's either the Cola War fact, the War of the Bucket, the Great Cheese War, or the War of the Stray Dog.
I think it's either C or D, and the dog one sounds like something that would happen in a Wes Anderson film where people just start fighting and they don't know really why, but they just are. The Great Cheese War just sounds so ridiculous too. I'm gonna go with the Great Cheese War.
The Great Cheese War was fake. There was no at least that's not what it is, if there is actually a Great Cheese War out there. And then one other just fact about A24, because they are coming out with a few more series.
Oh, interesting.
All right. One of those series is the Friday the 13th prequel that will eventually air on Peacock, titled Crystal Lake.
Oh, God.
And then the other one you might be interested in is called The Curse. Have you heard of that?
Curse?
Yes, created and written by Nathan Fielder, also going to star him.
What?
And Emma Stone. It's an alleged curse that disturbs the relationship of a newly married couple as they try to conceive a child while co-starring. While co-starring on their problematic new HGTV show, Flipanthropy.
Wait, so this is a TV series?
Yes, called The Curse, which is going to be about a fake TV show called Flipanthropy about these TV flippers, or, like the couple flippers,
the people that literally own HGTV. It seems like
yes, but they're having trouble conceiving a child because of a curse, and so and so Nathan Fielder is going to star in that. It'll be interesting.
Yeah, I would say.
Well, that's basically all I've got. Overall, you think you might increase that 7 if you see the rest of the
maybe,
show?
yeah.
Right. Thanks for listening. We'll see you in the next episode. Hope you enjoyed this one. Bye.
Bye.